Welcome to the I Am One podcast, where we chat with Postpartum Support International volunteers to discuss why and how exactly they're supporting the mental health of new families. I'm your host, Danny Giddens. I'm a perinatal mental health certified advocate, a support group leader in my community, and I'm one staff member of the Climb Out of the Darkness program here at PSI. Hearing one person's story on a podcast changed the trajectory of my life. It was the catalyst to me opening up about my undiagnosed postpartum anxiety, depression, and OCD, processing my own trauma, and realizing that advocacy is my life's work. My colleagues and I all discovered that there is strength in processing trauma and empowerment in sharing stories. So that's what we're here to do. Most importantly, we discovered that we're not alone. Maybe you're already connected to the perinatal mental health world in one way or another. Or maybe you're just looking for ways to support new parents and families. Whatever the case, we are so glad that you tuned in. And who knows, maybe we'll hear from you next. On today's episode, we're chatting with Taleah Bryant, a certified holistic birth doula, lactation educator, and support groups manager here at PSI. Taleah is mama to a vibrant 4-year-old daughter and an angel baby boy. Our conversation flowed so easily as this proud New Yorker, now living in Georgia, explained why she's so incredibly passionate about perinatal mental health, reproductive justice, and holding a supportive space for pregnant and postpartum individuals. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the I Am One podcast are the speaker's own. Tuning into this podcast is not a replacement for therapy or any other form of professional help. Our discussions cover personal stories of perinatal mood and anxiety disorders and may feel triggering to some listeners. Your number one priority is to take care of yourself. So if you are in need of help, please reach out to the PSI Helpline by calling or texting HELP to 1-800-944-4773 for help in English and in Spanish. At PSI, we want you to know you are not alone, you are not to blame, and with help, you will be well. Okay, let's get on with the podcast. Taleah, welcome to the pod, my friend. We are absolutely pumped to be sitting here with you today. And in case any listeners missed it, Taleah is a colleague in the vast virtual workspace that is PSI. All of us work remotely. So while we don't get to high five in the hallway, we get to high five over Zoom, high five, or in our case today, high five in the podcast studio. So anyway, I feel like we really won the lottery with the incredible people that we get to work with at PSI. So thank you for being here with us today.
Yes.
And being willing to share your story about your lived experience.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, so happy that you're here. So let's just jump in, Taleah. I am going to virtually pass the mic to you. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, my name is Taleah Bryant. In terms of my capacity and work within PSI, I'm the assistant manager over our virtual support groups, which we have over 35 support groups that we offer now, which is crazy because if you looked at it prior to the pandemic, I think we only offered about 4.
Was it 4 per week?
4 in general, like total. And I think they were mostly just the PMADs. And now we have about 35 plus. I think we're at 36 right now. And so that spans PMADs, our specialty groups, our mindfulness group. We literally have something for everyone that is looking to prepare. We have our pregnancy mood group. So those are in pregnancy, postpartum. We have a parents of 1 to 4-year-old. So that's our kind of transitioning from the initial postpartum because toddler years are a mess.
Oh, yeah.
So it can be a lot.
A big
it
hot
can be a
mess.
lot. Yes. Big mess. So really just excited about our offerings for virtual support groups. And then I started with PSI as a volunteer. So I was facilitating PMAD group on Fridays, and then that transitioned to working part-time and then full-time. And then now I scaled back a little bit, but I love PSI's mission and how we are just being supportive to all those that are needing help.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you ever take suggestions for support groups because I have 2 tweens and a teen living in my house, and I really need some support.
Stretch that perinatal period out to about, 18 years so that we could kind of slide into a support group.
For forever, right? Yes. So we do take suggestions. We love when people have, a lot of our just groups in general have come from suggestions of either help seekers or people within PSI, or even those that are interested in facilitating and thinking that there's a need in the community for that particular group. Lord knows, yes, kids beyond the 2-year, because postpartum is forever, right? It never ends. So it absolutely definitely need help beyond toddler years. Because right now I feel like I'm under attack from my 4-year-old. I'm under attack.
What's happening?
You also can say next question.
No. So no worries at all. So part of my introduction as well, I am mom to a 4-year-old daughter, also mom to an angel baby in heaven. So my daughter, who turned 4 in December, you can call her a 4-nager.
Yeah.
She's bossy like her Gigi. You can keep that in.
Oh, that's going to stay in.
She's bossy. She's really smart, but she can get over on her daddy more than we will be in the same room. She will ask me for a lollipop. I will say no. She will walk a few feet to him, ask him if he will get her a lollipop. Now, we are feet apart, so there's no way you didn't hear my no. And then for the, sure, babe, sure, sweetie, no, I just told her no. So there's a lot of playing off of mommy and daddy. And the girl,
she knows how to work a room.
She really does. And I don't know if either of you follow horoscopes, but she's a Sagittarius. And so she is a fire sign. And that girl is the firecracker in our house. Super sweet, super loving. But I can only imagine when she gets older, the fights and the things.
Is Aries a fire sign? Because I got 2 of those. And I'm just wondering. I don't know what's happening, but it's not good in my house. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Aries are fire signs.
That explains everything.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying.
Yep. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh, a fiery 4-year-old. Condolences.
Yes. And she just started preschool. Oh, I need it. She just started preschool in June. And so she was born right, her first year. When she turned 1, it was 2019, literally right before the pandemic. And so she's not a quote unquote COVID baby, but she's pretty close enough to it where she experienced the whole not starting school, having to be home with us. That was a whole thing.
Right.
Which actually led to, even I didn't anticipate this. I breastfed, but because of COVID and it extended, my idea of only it being a year got pushed to 3.
Oh.
So, and that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But having to transition to school, and she's great with meeting people. She is what's the word?
Social butterfly?
When people are
extrovert?
There you go. Social butterfly. That one. There we go. So she was super happy to start school, but also what comes with school the first year of not being in school is the sickness and the germs and the nastiness.
It's the worst.
I hate it.
It's hello, October. Goodbye, life. See you in May. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
When you have allergies then, though. So not even.
Life's hard.
Yeah. So she's been off and on sickness since about September.
Can I offer you my condolences again for a second time?
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so 4-year-old.
And then also I am a certified holistic birth doula because I love just everything that encompasses birth and postpartum and helping people. So yeah, that's just kind of a few things that I do.
Great. Have you been doing that since before you became a mom?
No. So funny enough, in college, my college advisor was a postpartum doula. And she was my first just entry into the birth world. I've always been interested in it, especially just like my mom's birth story, where she had a C-section with me and my brother. And I always just felt innately that she had other options that she could have if she had the research, if she had the knowledge, if she had the support. And I felt like with her 2 C-sections, it could have been different. And it wasn't. And I felt like because of that, it's just funny how throughout life, I feel like you get breadcrumbs of where you're supposed to be. You just don't know the pieces or how it's all going to play out. And so when I met her and it turned into love her, and I was a sociology and anthropology major. So people in general and cultures are like my jam. But she was a birth worker. And then with the birth of my daughter, I did have a doula with her. It's funny having to try to like persuade your partner of why you need a support person when they don't understand.
I'm going to need another person. Not to say you don't know what you're doing, but I need a professional up in here.
Exactly. And so we had a doula with her. My birth story is funny enough in itself. But even throughout, so after my birth with her, that made me feel even more empowered to wanting to pursue becoming a doula. So my daughter really did kind of bring that out of me of pursuing doula work.
Great. Well, I think now would be a great time to ask you about how perinatal mood and anxiety disorders have touched your life. And I'd love to hear more about that because I kind of feel like we were about to maybe go into that. We're going to wade into that next. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So it's funny that as I became an adult, I didn't realize how much just like your family dynamic or things that happen with your mom will then trickle over into you if you're unaware. But like my mom has had anxiety a good portion of her life, and I did not know that until I became an adult, and I was like, oh, that's what that is. She was never diagnosed. I
was just going to ask.
She was never diagnosed. And me and my brother have a 14-year and 10-year gap. So he was actually born when I was in high school, my freshman year of high school. And there were just things. So that was my first kind of lens into seeing birth a little bit, seeing baby first years, postpartum. And my anxiety didn't show up until after I gave birth. And so not knowing prior that I was already predisposed to it. And if I had known that, then perhaps I would have gotten or sought help that could have prepared me for what was to come. Because once I gave birth, hormonal changes completely. It's a drop in your hormones that comes, and you're kind of left with this entire little human that is solely living because of you, that you have to give so much energy and effort and be their like thing to help them sustain until they get a little bit older. And I had really bad postpartum anxiety. It never got to depression, but it just stayed at postpartum anxiety. And I think some OCD that I feel like to this day still kind of lingers a little bit, but it was just such a stressful time. In addition to me and my partner had just moved into our new house prior to baby. So we were in there for maybe 4 or 5 months. And then birth went really well, and I only actually had to stay in the hospital for a day. So the next day I was able to come home, and I'll tell you about the birth story after that. Okay. And it just, with my partner being like the youngest out of his siblings, he never actually has seen any type of like birth or had to really care for any younger children like that. So becoming a dad for him, I know, was a lot. And so there were just a lot of hiccups that we had to overcome because there was a communication barrier. There were expectations that maybe we didn't explain or talk through to really have a plan of what was going to happen once baby is here. Because literally you have this human, you're like, okay, I have to keep you alive because that's my job now. But then you have to make sure like individually you're okay, which is hard because again, you don't really have the time. But then also having to figure out time for your relationship, you're like, where in the 24 hours? And I have to try to get sleep when I'm not really getting sleep. How does this work? So it was a lot to deal with for sure.
Yeah. And you at least had a little bit of experience to draw on, having a sibling born during a time that you actually can remember. And this was all new for him. So, anyway.
Yes. And, you know, when you don't have a partner that wants to read literature that you give them, you just kind of like, no.
He didn't know he was signing up to join a book club. Like, come on. We're not just here for the wine and charcuterie board. You got to read it.
Right? I promise you, I'm pretty sure I gave him probably about 2, maybe 3 books. I doubt they got cracked open, but I know he paid attention in the childbirth education courses.
Okay.
And when we met with our doula, he was really on board. He was like, these are so helpful. I was like, you know what also is helpful?
They're on your nightstand. Just roll over.
Just a thought. Just a thought.
Oh.
But yeah, it was a transition for us. It was a really, with breastfeeding, and actually breastfeeding turned out well for me in the beginning. There were some hiccups where I needed to go to like a lactation consultant down the road when latching was changing. And then even like maternity leave in the US sucks. So I remember having to go, like, it's awful. And so I was stressing leading up to that. Gratefully, the job I was at gave me 16 weeks, which for most, that sounds amazing. But I was like, no, I want to be home with my baby for a longer span of time. Yeah. And I was grateful that my mom was retired. So like for the first few months, right, going back into work, she did watch Amina for us. But beyond that, it was just like prepping for that and knowing I wasn't ready, and that was bringing on stress, and then having to prepare to pump at work, which was a whole thing. I was just like, I'm over it. Like, why? Yeah. Like, why?
That's anxiety inducing on top of the anxiety that you're already feeling about transitioning to this new role as a mother and being a partner with your husband, and you both learning this new thing at the same time. Were you diagnosed or not officially?
So when I was diagnosed, not then,
later,
like a couple of years later.
Hey, Emily and I are waving our fingers too. Hey, it's us.
It's the Me Too.
Yeah,
support group.
Twinkle fingers.
Exactly. It was later when I so I feel like when you have your 6 to 8 week checkup, right, which is depending if you have a vaginal or a cesarean, that can still be an early enough time where you are not experiencing a mood disorder to know what's happening. And at that time, I wasn't. Like, I didn't feel any differently. I was not stressed. I was like, yeah, I'm great. It came down like later down the road where I was like, I'm not feeling like me. My patience is very thin. I have like this roller coaster of highs and lows. I'm having these intrusive thoughts where I'm like, my partner would make fun of me because I would constantly kind of like throughout the night hover over my baby just so that I'm like, are you still breathing? Are you breathing? Can I hear it? Can I feel it? Okay, we're good. And then I would tiptoe out of the room. And he's like, she's fine. I was like, you don't know that. That's why I need to go check.
Did you have like the baby monitor turned all the way up, but you still had to go in?
Yep, I had to. I mean, if she moved, like rolled over, great. Or like just moved and I could see. But otherwise, I'm like, no, I'm just going to go and tiptoe and crawl sometimes on the floor.
Do I poke her a little bit? Just enough for her to move, but hopefully not wake up.
Like, yeah. So, but it was the intrusive thoughts, I think, were the scariest part for me because I definitely could tell the difference between reality and what my brain was telling me, but just the thought of something harming my baby or me doing something that could possibly harm her was frustrating and scary for me.
Scary. And alarming,
Very.
So what was it like for you seeking help, getting some help? You said you were undiagnosed and you kind of found out later. Did you, just try to get through without saying too much, or did you communicate how you were feeling with your partner and your family? Or tell us more about that, please.
So I went to my primary care physician and I was like, we need to talk because I have been struggling with this for quite some time. One of the reasons I think I put it off a little bit was because I was breastfeeding and I was afraid that medication that I took would affect the baby. And that was really like a pain point for me. I was like, no, I want to make sure that I want to continue breastfeeding, but I want to make sure I'm good too. Mm-hmm. And so when I was talking with her and kind of just explaining my symptoms and what I was going through, she did say that it was anxiety that I was experiencing, maybe some depression at that time, but it definitely could have been situational. But she did say it sounded like anxiety. So I was prescribed then Lexapro, since that was kind of a lower dosage, lower medication that didn't have too many side effects that would help kind of stabilize me until I felt like I was okay and then I could wean off of it.
Did it help you?
It did.
Good job. Way to say the thing. It's really hard for a lot of people just to say, I just don't feel like myself, and to be open with their physician. So good job, Taleah.
Thank you.
I didn't do that. Yeah, I missed the assignment. Yeah.
I'm the same way. Like, I didn't reach out either. And I'm always like, I want to congratulate the people who do, like, who go, something's not okay.
Yeah.
It was, I think because even seeing like my mom now, and she still struggles with anxiety, and I have said like, hey, why haven't you sought out help? Or maybe you should think about medication. And it's older generations, especially in the Black community, if you talk about anything that's medication or even therapy, they're just like, no. And I'm just like, y'all are missing out. Because I love my therapist.
Yeah.
We're cool.
I'm an every other weeker. Like every other Wednesday morning, I'm unavailable for work meetings, They know I'm going and talking about the feelings. So
as you should. And I just feel like, why struggle if you don't have to?
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of past generations think that like I'm not winning a prize. I'm not getting a trophy because I'm struggling the most. Like, I don't want to wear that badge. I never do. And so at least like, especially having a daughter now, I'm like, I want to be an example for her too. So when she gets older, and Lord knows I'm going to put her in therapy just so that she can have someone to talk with when she gets older in case she needs it. Cause it's just, you just never know. But I am such an advocate of therapy, advocate for, if you need the medication, take it. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't mean you're not capable. That doesn't mean you're less than. That just means right now, in this span of time, I need a little extra something. And if that's going to help me be a better person, be a better parent, be a better partner, why would I forego that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I've had to explain to some people in an older age category, let's just say, that this is like me going to therapy is a maintenance thing. Like, it's like you go to the doctor to do a checkup, you go to the dentist. This is to help my, maintain my brain. And, because I've been asked, like, what's going on? Like there's some giant emergency, and sometimes there is an emergency. Just like when you go to the doctor, sometimes there's an emergency. Sometimes when you go to the dentist, you need a tooth pulled, but like sometimes you're just going for a cleaning, just to make sure things,
Exactly.
Anyway, keep talking about it. People probably tired of me talking about going to therapy. Yeah. Okay, Danny, we're going to talk about feelings. Okay. You're not? Oh,
I'm not.
Well, you've got a lifetime of friendship talking about feelings then, friend.
That's right.
It's funny to talk about feelings because, so I had mentioned earlier that I have an angel baby.
Yeah.
And so I had a miscarriage back in August. And I was 19 weeks pregnant when we found about miscarriage. So yes, less than a year ago.
Yeah.
Yes. And so throughout that, it was very hard to deal with. And even just like as a doula, as a person that has helped so many families, like ushering babies, I'm like, this seems unfair. Like, why am I having to deal with this? But a lot of healing and therapy came out of that. And so one of the therapies that I'm currently in is EMDR, which is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And so essentially you're doing different exercises to help you understand the trauma. So EMDR is mostly for trauma-based situations or anything that you're dealing with. And so you do different exercises to help you understand the triggers associated with your trauma, and then tools to help you, whatever that situation or item or whatever it is that's causing trauma, to reprocess your brain so that it's not triggering as much for you anymore. And one of the things that came up in one of my sessions was feelings. And one of the things I had said, as I felt like it was an epiphany, because I feel like once you go to therapy, you may have times where you have epiphanies, is that children have big emotions. They have big feelings. And as their parent and as guardians, at least for our household, we don't shun or shy away from the feelings. It's just understanding where they're coming from and then trying to, guide them through it. And so one of the things I told my therapist was, I wonder where in adulthood did it become taboo for us not to have big feelings? Because we do have them, depending on the situation, but it's seen as something negative if you're a person that's super in touch with your feelings or expressing the big feelings. And I'm like, but if it's okay for children, why is it not okay for us? And I think just your talk about feelings made me think about that it is okay to have big feelings, especially when you deal with really intense situations.
Yeah. I have big feelings every day.
Yeah, she does.
Hey. And it's okay, for our kids to see that we have big feelings, and actually me like kind of coaching my kids through the big feelings, like helps me too. When I'm saying things like, it's absolutely okay to feel anything that you're feeling. You can't push your brother off the stool though, but it's okay to feel how you're feeling. And so I'm still working on what to do with that. Like, what do I do when I feel the big things? And how do I get through this? And anyway, well, therapy's one thing.
Absolutely.
But we're all just figuring it out all the time. Nobody's got it all figured out. That's the secret.
Right.
So true. So true. Some people pretend to have it figured out. And I'm like, I don't think so.
I find those to be the most suspicious people.
Which leads me to my next question. Who are the most suspicious people? The people that don't talk about feelings.
Facts.
No, it's true. Like, they're the ones where I'm like, ooh, you need some healing.
Come to a support group.
Yes.
We have 35 different flavors to choose from. What's your pleasure?
Yes, absolutely.
So was it after becoming a mom that you came across PSI? Did you know about PSI? Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's a love-hate thing, because I'm like, why did I not know about PSI when I was needing it? Like, in my first birth, it would have been so integral in my healing process. But I'm happy that I found it when I did, because I have been able to be just vocal within my circles, within people that I interact with, within even like my clients. I'm telling all of them, like, hey guys, PSI has virtual support groups. They have pregnancy, they have postpartum, or even just like preparing them for what's to come. And so while I was not aware of PSI prior to 2020, once I became just more knowledgeable of it, I feel like I've been drinking the Kool-Aid ever since. I'm like, yep.
Not like the cult kind of
PSI,
Kool-Aid.
that's what you need. Go get a group.
The healthiest Kool-Aid out there. Yeah, I feel like I've been doing this face palm. It's like, how many years has this been around? Oh man, like I know I'm not alone in thinking that. Like, I can't believe that I didn't know about this. And here I am, like, give me a microphone, a loudspeaker, something. I mean, like I'm sharing on my social media, I won't stop talking about all the things to all the people that I know. And, this is one of the things that we can do to help other people know about PSI or other resources and know that there's more than just baby blues or postpartum depression. And you're not alone if you have really scary thoughts, and you're not a terrible person. It's a common thing. And,
what I'm finding, like, yes, I'm a doula, so I have that knowledge of birth and postpartum. But even prior to that, since I had some exposure to it, I knew what to kind of expect. But it is very jarring for the amount of people that when they get pregnant, majority of people are just like, all right, baby shower. And okay, like planning for the baby. Then afterwards, literally, they don't know what's to come. They don't know how to plan in the postpartum. And they're kind of just left like a deer in headlights, like not knowing where to go or who to call on. And that's really sad. I think just within our medical community, it's very much so, okay, let's get the baby's here, mom's good, okay, there you go. But a lot of just birthers in general need more hand holding. And when we're talking about emotional health, that's definitely that's not spoken about as much with medical providers. And so I'm really excited and happy that PSI holds that space and is a good space for birthers and moms and partners and those that are looking for just resources to really help them
support people, professionals,
support people, everyone that can really help them. So join us starting March 15th. We will be offering a postpartum planning class. It will be the first and third Wednesday out of the month. The first Wednesday starting in April, that will be at 7:30 p.m. And the one starting on March 15th will be at 1 p.m. So third Wednesday out of the month, it will be at 1. And then the first Wednesday out of the month, it will be at 7:30. So if you are in your second or third trimester and you are wanting to know how to prepare for postpartum, feel free to join our free 2-hour class.
Incredible. Awesome. That is great. Thank you for the information on that. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by PSI Peer Support Groups. You start off as a volunteer with PSI, or did you? Yeah, you're nodding. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did. Yep, I facilitated one of our perinatal mood and anxiety disorder groups.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, I loved being a facilitator. And then I remember pinging Carrie and was like, hey, I want to be part of PSI. And Carrie is one of, I love Carrie. She used to be over the virtual support groups. And then so I started working with her, and I've been here since.
Man, I wonder how many of us started as volunteers. Pretty much like almost so many people. So many of us.
I think it's 100%. Honestly, I think it's 100%. Yeah.
So you've already pretty much touched on the next question, which was just how are you connected with PSI today? And you're coordinating all the groups, all the things. I did have a question though, and I can't remember if you answered it or not. If people have suggestions of groups, they scan all of the 30 something groups that there are, and they just don't feel like there's a good fit for them. How can people connect with you all and suggest a new group?
Yeah, they can email groups at postpartum.net.
Okay.
And then if you want to email me specifically, it would be Taleah, so TALEAH at postpartum.net. Either way, that's how we typically get those that are interested in either running a group or interested in seeing other groups. That's where we typically hear from them.
I have 2 follow-up questions, and I'm going to hope that I remember both of them. So
I understand. I completely understand.
Right? My first one is, if someone makes a suggestion for a group and you guys are like, we need that, how long does it take to go from suggestion to the group happening? Right? Because you guys are pretty, like, you look for specific folks to facilitate each type of group, right?
Yes. So typically for our groups, the facilitators that lead them are usually those that have some type of lived experience in that perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. We also have some that are clinicians that facilitate as well. However, our groups are considered peer-to-peer support, meaning even if we do have a clinician that is facilitating or co-facilitating the group, they're taking off that hat and they're really being a person that is a supporter, that is an advocate, or really is just a person that understands the needs and resources for those that are attending group. Most of our groups are most of them are co-facilitated, meaning there are two people that are leading group, which helps also if there's someone that has an emergency and can't lead group. So we have two people. There are some that are just facilitated by one person, but mostly are two. So to answer your question, let's say if someone had an idea for a group, we would see first if there are anyone, maybe particularly that are on staff or those that are part of leading group, if any of them are interested in leading that particular group, because some people do actually facilitate two different types of groups.
Right.
They have that option, and majority of people that facilitate groups are volunteers. So once we have the facilitator associated with who will be leading that group, they have to go through a training protocol, just understanding what we look for a PSI facilitator. We create the description, we work with communication so that they can create the image and start to market it on Facebook and our other social handles. And then we run groups. So it can take usually, depending on, and of course it depends on the need, right? If we find that it's a group that there is a big need for, then we can probably get that group running within a couple of months.
Incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You touched on my follow-up question, which I did not forget. Yeah, right. So what do you look for in a group leader? If we were going to create an advertisement for support group leaders, what does it say?
So it would, for sure, I would say number one is that whatever your mood disorder was, that you are healed, or at least you are further away from it at least a year, so that you are able to adequately support other help seekers. Because one of our main points, and when we go through training for facilitators, is our 90-10 rule. You are speaking 10% of the time as a facilitator, and the rest of that time, that 90%, are the help seekers, the participants, the people that have signed up for group. Because some people, if you're still within a season where you're not over or healed from your mood disorder, you may want to talk more about what you're experiencing. You may want to interject. You may want to give advice. And we don't do any of those. We do not give advice. We have how our groups are situated is that 30 minutes, it's 90 minutes per group. 30 minutes of that time is the education piece, where we're talking about the perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, which we call PMADs. We also discuss our group guidelines, and then we have introductions for those as a facilitator, but then also for the people that have attended group. And then the rest of the time, 60 minutes, is talk time, where people are sharing, they're asking questions, so help seekers can ask for advice for sure. But it is not one of the guidelines that we do share with our help seekers in general is that we're not going to offer advice unless someone asks for it, because we are not in the faction of telling someone what they need to do, but we can share maybe if we've been in similar situations of like, this is what helped me. This is how I overcame the situation. Maybe this can be helpful for you. So we definitely have like certain guidelines of using I statements, but as a facilitator, really holding that space for everybody else.
I love support groups.
They're awesome. But yeah, so majority of them do follow the 90-minute time frame minus our mindfulness group.
And is there a link on the website if somebody's listening and they are a support group leader in their community and they might be interested in suggesting a support group or facilitating one? Is there a way for people to volunteer to be group facilitators, or like, is there a link, like an application on the website?
Yes.
Great.
There is an application on the PSI website.
Parfait. We'll be sure to drop a link in the show notes about how to suggest a group. how to volunteer
Yeah.
as a facilitator, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So if you go to postpartum.net and you click on the Join Us tab and you go to volunteer, and then you go to PSI Online Support Group Coordinator, there is an Apply to be a Support Group Facilitator button you click on, and then you just fill out the form.
Awesome.
And we have groups Sundays through Fridays. Saturday is the only day we don't. And I think our earliest group starts at 10 a.m. Eastern. Overall, I'm speaking, different days have different times, but overall, I think our earliest group starts at 10 and our latest group is like at 11, because we do try, and this is Eastern, because we do, since we're seeing so many help seekers that are different time zones and some international, we try to be able to have groups that kind of fit everybody.
That's really great that there's a variety of different options for people to make sure that they can get to something. So, that's wonderful. Taleah, well, thanks for sharing all that. You know, we have one other little special treat at the end of every episode. We like to do a little lightning round. We have yet to have a lightning round. You know, I mean, it's like quick question, long answer. But are you consenting to a quick little / long little lightning round?
It's not quick. Her questions are hard.
They're not hard. I send them in advance. It's open book. Although there is one question that I have that I didn't send you, Taleah. But
see,
I do like to keep people on their toes. Okay,
keep me on my toes.
Question 1, besides this podcast, what's your favorite podcast if you listen to podcasts?
Okay, so there's this podcast called Here's the Thing.
Oh, like it. It's one, the person that's on, his name is Kev on Stage. And so he creates his own content. He has his own app. He does shows. I love him. He's funny. It's definitely, he comes from a spiritual background in church. And so, but I really just love the podcast. It grounds me. Awesome. Here's the Thing.
Yes.
Cool. I don't know if you're a book consumer, but if you are, do you prefer a book in your ear or in your hands? In your hands. How We Heal. Taleah is holding up How We Heal.
I'm very analog. Yeah. I don't like I will get because I'm sure if I'm not, I like to highlight. I take notes, depending on the book. And if I can't do that, if it's something I have to on my phone or a tablet, it's not going to work for me. I've tried it. It does not work for me.
Fair enough. So what are you reading or listening? Well, what are you reading right now? Not listening to. We know the answer to that.
Yes. So this one is called How We Heal. It is by Alexandra L. And she is a writer. I follow her on Instagram. She is amazing. I love all of her just inspirational messages. And she created this book. And so it's on top of it, it says, uncover your power and set yourself free. And one of the things some of these chapters are starting from scratch. And so it's tending to your self-doubt and fear, offering self-forgiveness, making room for new beginnings. Ooh. So it's very much a healing.
I'm writing that down
and stuff like that.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So is the healing typically from trauma?
It can be not necessarily trauma. I think anything within your life where you're coming into a season that the things that how you are operating or just people in your life maybe no longer serving you, and really just understanding how to allow yourself grace, but then also move forward and standing in your power.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 of the quotes I love that I highlighted because, again, I am a nerd. She had wrote, as I heal, I come to the page raw and honest and remember I am not a victim of my thoughts.
Oh.
Healing is slow and sacred work that we will all grapple with in our lifetimes. So then another part was, she said, the more I explore my own healing and the longer I teach writing to heal courses, the more I discovered that trauma does not have to be our resting place. We can feel, address, and notice our pain without lying down in it and staying there.
I want to print that out and put it on my wall.
Yeah, like on every wall.
You came prepared. I said, do you like to read what are you reading? Could have been 10-second answer. Good job. Taleah, nailing it.
Thank you. It's been in my bag, and I was like, I'll keep it here for when she asks me the book
feeling
questions.
some things in my eyeballs. That was good. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Can you tell us one way today that you'll show yourself some radical love besides making your colleagues cry? You're showing us love that way.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, rude, by the way.
If you would have asked me this the other day, it would have been my impromptu spa trip that I needed.
Impromptu?
That was so nice. Impromptu. It was, I went to this spa place, and it's like the Korean spa house. And so you could get like different services.
Oh, I love those.
So much fun. The saunas.
Do they have the salt room?
Yes, they do have the salt room. I love those. Like that is my like self-care thing. Like, leave me be. I will be here.
Wow.
I think I am going to do some stretching later. I used to dance. I used to be like a ballerina.
What?
Yeah, like a whole.
Okay, saves it for the 50-second minute. You were a ballerina.
I did ballet. I did gymnastics, tap, jazz, modern, like point, all of it.
So if we ever do a Broadway show, Taleah is definitely going to have a key role, is what you're saying.
I love Broadway. Love musicals. Like, those are my thing. Cannot sing.
Me neither.
Don't ask me to sing.
Okay.
But dancing, I got you.
Okay.
I got you. So I think I will stretch today. I've been trying to get more body movement involved in my day-to-day. But Emily, you're a yoga... Aren't you a yoga instructor?
Speaking of stretchy, you're also very stretchy. Emily's telling her husband he's fired. The phone rang. It's cool. Hey, we're professional here.
Sometimes I really, really need yoga, and today is
Okay. Well, can I ask one other question? This was not even on.
Yeah.
No, wait, I have a lightning round question.
Fine.
When you feel your big feelings, how do they come out in your body? Like, do you feel them in your body? Do they come out of your eyes? Do they come out of your mouth in the terms of words? Like, how do feelings show up for you?
Yeah, I feel the tension in my shoulders and my neck. It does really feel heavy. I have been getting better, because I am honest, with taking the time I need to calm down before blurting out or just sharing
that is
what it
hard.
is.
That is hard.
It is.
So hard.
It is, because it's like the whole like gentle parenting, that's hard. But then I feel like gentle
adulting
is even harder. Gentle.
Wait, is that a thing?
It could be. It's like, okay, I have to adequately explain. And my daughter's in the stage where she's asking why about everything. And so I'm like, okay, let me explain it. But then also I have a bigger human that I also need to explain.
But you can't act like that human's 4, because that's condescending. Or can you?
Exactly.
Or can you?
Even if you feel like, y'all have similarities. So it's a whole thing to have to filter and figure out feelings. So there are times where like I will go for a walk and I'm like, all right, let me debrief, and then I'll come back. And I'm like, okay, now I can explain how I feel. Because it's a lot to deal. Like, I know my feelings can get pretty heavy, and I know if I can't sort them out, then they're just going to sound like crying and just like stress. And I'm like, okay, you're just going to think I'm crazy. So I'm like, nope, let me be calm.
Wow. Nice.
So you do not sound like a prolific crier like our Danny here.
That
Are you
was
a
rude.
prolific crier?
But true. Accurate.
I mean, there's definitely been several times I'm like, oh my God, why are you not? And I'm like, you can hear what I'm saying. It's just brought on with some snot and tears, but we're going to get through this. We're going to get through it.
Emily, does that conclude your extra lightning round question?
That's my lightning round. Thank you.
Did you grow up in New York City or just in New York, the state of New York?
In the city, yeah. So like that's why I could never consider myself a Georgia peach because it seems like treason. But yeah, I was born in Manhattan. Then I think around 4 or 5 years old, we moved to the Bronx. But I went to school in Manhattan, learned to take the train and bus by myself in middle school. So yeah, like it's like a whole thing. Yeah.
Did you get a driver's license right when you could, or did you have no motivation to do so because public transportation is so good?
I didn't get my license until 22.
But how many kids in the suburb know how to take a bus? I mean,
seriously, and it's funny now because my mom and brother moved to Georgia in 2016. And so he is taking lessons now and he's 18, but he never had a want to learn how to drive. And I'm like, if I was here, your age, I would have learned how to drive at 16.
But he also didn't need it, you know?
He didn't, but I get for a lot of my friends that I've met here and just people in general, and they're just like, you learned when? I was like, yeah. Most people from New York either don't have a driver's license or they don't get one until in their 20s.
Do you have like a favorite meal that you like totally crave?
My question.
I don't know if you're a foodie at all. Do you have like a favorite meal that you just wish you could open your fridge and it be there?
So I get made fun of by my partner all the time because I love Italian food. Like that's my comfort. I love pasta. I could probably have pasta for every meal. So like if it's like a baked ziti or a chicken parm, and I've like mastered my baked ziti.
Humble brag.
Though I am trying to figure out non-dairy options, which when you become an adult, dairy it doesn't operate the same. So trying to find other fake cheeses.
No further questions on the dairy.
R.I.P. dairy.
Okay. Well, Taleah, I think that concludes our very quick lightning round. It flew by. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. It just means a lot that you were able to block off some time and hang out and talk about all the serious and the silly things with Emily and I. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thank you for thanking us. I'm just kidding.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the I'm One podcast. Check out today's show notes where we'll drop links to all the important things that we mentioned in this episode. Please consider liking, following, and sharing about our show on social media and subscribing to and rating our show wherever you listen to podcasts. It only takes a minute of your time and, well, you'll help people find this podcast, thus helping our collective mission of bringing resources and local support to folks worldwide. From everyone here at the Climb Team, thanks again for listening.